Hey everyone, it's Craig.
And Cartier.
And you know what we want to tell them about?
Hawaii Five-0 is having a sale on pilgrim hats.
That's right, and pumpernickel.
Pumpernickel bread is so underrated. That's why I choose rye.
And that's why I like to go check out my options on patreon.com/Katya and Craig.
That's where all the relevant tea is spilled, as it were, and not to mention certain facts that can be used as receipts upon dragging a person, tearing off their wig, going off, snapping. Snatching.
Absolutely.
Spalding.
Oh,
Spalding Gray her. Drag her, monologue her.
Diane Weist her.
Oh my God. Ellen Barkin her to death, hunty.
Barbara Hershey.
Oh, who Hershey?
Who was she?
Damn.
Find out all of that and more on patreon.com/Katya and Craig. Because what do we have there? We got the bonus episodes?
We got bonus episodes. We got extra episodes. We got exclusive episodes. We got firewall pay-through non-standard secret episodes. We got movie clubs. We got anti-movie clubs. We got fish and chips. We got haggis. We got deals and deal or no deals. And we got Howie Mandel's OCD pay-per-view comedy hour.
That's right. Absolutely. All that and more, plus listen to questions. So listen, go there at patreon.com/Katya and Craig and enjoy yourself. So listen, why don't we get into the episode now?
A Russian ballerina, stomping on a bureaucrat, a perky suburban housewife who just got into scat. It's whimsically volatile.
Sounds good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay.
And actually, I have a little intro.
Nice.
Oh, pardon me. I just stepped on your foot. I'd like to step on the guest foot and then do the intro.
And then the intro.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all genders, on this episode of Whimsically Volatile, I'm pleased to present to you the baddest bitch in the room until she moves to the next room. That's right, it's the one, the only, it's the Vixen.
Hello.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
That's a great intro.
Thanks, I love that track. It's so good. You're welcome. My only choice, I was trying to decide should I say baddest or flyest, because, which is...
I do bounce back.
Yeah, exactly. But baddest, I feel, is the most sort of comprehensive. And
Yeah. Flies, bitch, implies that I might be a fly on the wall. And just,
yeah, exactly. Someone could get confused.
Right, which is a great concept for a music video.
Actually, it
is.
is.
Just a fly going room to room.
Or maybe, like right when you get to that part of the song, then it switches to that. Yeah. So you've been in LA for the whole weekend. You've had a bunch of shows.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
When was the last time you were in LA?
I was here in January. I did Daddy Issues and I filmed Hey Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Which was fun, super fun. And so it never fails. I come for 2 days and I stay for 7. It never fails.
That's the way to do it, though. Yeah. Right? It's too quick otherwise. I mean, most tour times, like how often, you were saying right before we started, how often are you usually in a town for?
Usually 18 hours. I barely see the bed. Yeah. Sometimes, depending on what time the show start, I don't even see the hotel until after the show. And,
Right. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. How easy is it for you to turn off the adrenaline after a show and like go to sleep?
In LA, it's a lot easier because I always stock up on edibles.
Yeah, that's a good move.
Yeah. But usually I have to... It takes a while for me to even muster up the energy to get out of drag. I woke up with a little makeup on today. And then once I get to the hotel room and kind of decompress, some nights I can get a second wind if I get out of drag soon enough. And that's the trick. If you're trying to go to sleep and you wash your face, you wake up. So you have to pace myself to make sure that I don't wash my face too soon and that when I do, I'm dog tired.
Oh, yeah. It's just like getting it off there. Yeah. Do you do makeup wipes or is it the full sink?
I do the wipes because I've turned too many sinks brown in my day. So I learned the hard way that it's better to do. And even the one thing in my rider is to have Neutrogena wipes because they work good.
Yeah. The trick Katya was telling me about, I can't remember which dishwashing liquid, Joy or something like that. Just hit it and it's like off in like a second. Yeah. But it's like the worst thing for your skin.
Yeah, apparently. The degreaser. You should slap yourself with Vaseline immediately afterwards.
Right, exactly. Clean it off and then at full face with Vaseline.
Yeah. Which is what I do.
So where are you headed to next?
I'm going to Chicago for a show, which is very rare. I typically only do Roscoe's in Chicago for Black Girl Magic, but I'm doing the Chicago Gay Men's Chorus this weekend, and I'm also doing Oberlin College. So this is going to be fun. So
in Chicago, you only usually do the Black Girl Magic show?
That's my baby there.
Yeah. And how long has that been running?
It's, oh God, almost 4 years now.
That's great.
It's so strange because it feels like yesterday still.
I remember you talking on Drag Race about the genesis of it, but if you could get into it a little bit more now, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So when I started drag, there was not a lot of Black drag queens who were popular or in charge. And slowly but surely, we all made our own way. Me, Dita Ritz, Lucy Stool, Shea Coulee. But we noticed that we were never in the same room together. Okay. We were all the Black tokens at our own bars in a way. Sure. So we made it a point to do a photo shoot together, and it felt really, really good to see people who look like you in the same room.
Sure, yeah.
Shocker. So we started secretly casting each other in our shows, and then I finally got the opportunity to pitch my own show to a nightclub, and I just happened to put Dita, Shay, and Lucy at the top of my list, and they all said yes, and we were like, uh-oh. And so we announced that we were going to do a show together without giving it a name first.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then the community started calling it Black Girl Magic.
That's the best way to get a name. It just happens, and you can't argue with it.
And so we were like, okay, well, I guess it's Black Girl Magic.
It's a pretty good name.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's been crazy ever since. We get to do songs that we don't think that we would be able to do anywhere else. We do
like what, for instance?
Like Frankie, Beverly, and Maze stuff that I call like my mama's music. And it's crazy because a lot of times we go out thinking nobody's gonna know this, but I'll do it anyway. And then you see people singing along because the audience has changed. Because now more people of color come out to see a Vixen show because they know that it's gonna make them feel welcome and comfortable and celebrate it. And so it's been a really good journey, not only for us on stage, but for the audience to like know that they're gonna go somewhere and be represented.
Representation is a really important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was a major theme of, I guess, the post Drag Race discussion.
Yeah.
After you left and after the reunion and everything.
Yeah.
And you really brought a lot of attention to certain issues.
Yeah, I really left a mark. It's like being in a fight, but you should see the other guy.
I was watching a video on YouTube that I'm not sure when it was posted, but it was sometime post the reunion, and it was you talking about things that were cut out of the show, etc. And one thing that really kind of struck me was that the conversation you had with Asia wasn't the full conversation that we didn't see the full conversation.
Right.
I mean, I know the show's heavily edited, but I just, for some reason, because it was a sentimental moment, it didn't occur to me that maybe there was things not there.
Yeah. Well, when you think of how each queen has like a journey on the show, you rarely see a queen leave without their story being wrapped up.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And so I think for the producers, it was kind of, okay, let's get Asia to kind of have like a peaceful conversation with Vixen so that we don't kick Vixen out on a sour note. My elimination episode was pretty uneventful, very calm. I left, sad, but I didn't fight anybody that day, which I think felt good for them.
Yeah. And you mentioned in that same video also about how a lot of things became clear to you when you viewed it, especially the way you felt about maybe your own part in the fight.
Right. Yeah. Especially because I was the only bitch in the room who was saying what I was saying, and no one was. It's a weird feeling when you are speaking what you think is the truth, and people are staring at you and saying, well, you're not wrong, and you're like, then I'm right, and they're like, well, I can't say you're right, but you're not.
Let's not get crazy. We don't want to go there.
I can't legally say that you are correct under the order of Viacom, but so I left very confused I was like, I feel right about this, but no one is actually telling me that I did a good thing or a bad thing. So it wasn't until I got to see the audience reaction and see that people who looked like me understood me that I was like, okay, you weren't crazy. You were just the only one willing to say it. And so, I was really grateful for the audience in that.
Although some of the audience, unfortunately, the show was pretty nasty. The death threats and everything.
Even that validated what I was talking about.
That's a good point.
In their own way, they proved me right, which is sad and scary for you to tell someone, you're going to look at me racistly, and they go, yeah.
They're like, that's right. Thank you for cutting the middle bit out.
Get to it.
We love to do that. So thank you for giving us the opportunity. With Asia, I was wondering what your reaction was when you saw the reunion and after you left. Asia kind of had a breakdown. What did you feel about that?
I think I was really relieved because Asia's. I would say that me and Asia are both queens of the same cloth, where we started with nothing. We taught ourselves to make things, like really built ourselves up. She was, when Asia was snatching crowns, she was younger than I am now, so we've both had those kind of experiences of having to prove ourselves.
Sure.
But I think Asia coming up in the South, she was trained to handle it a different way. I was obviously much more aggressive about it. So I think Asia always understood me. We just made different decisions on the oppression that we faced. So it was really good to see her see me with compassion and I think she's always understood where I came from, but to see her have as much fire as I did about the situation was really, really great.
Now, in terms of another queen who comes from the South, RuPaul's reaction was substantially different than Asia's. Now, what did you think when you watched it? What do you think about it now?
It's really strange, and the only words that I know for it is cognitive dissonance, is to be able to see something that is so cut and dry and then do these mental gymnastics to make it fit your own narrative.
Okay, sure, yeah.
And because she says that me and her came from the same place, which isn't specifically true, but we both came from bad neighborhoods and that type of thing. So I understand that, but to me it's like, okay, so if you see yourself in me, why are you being so mean? like if we wouldn't you want to make things easier for me instead of like with Black Girl Magic, I created that show to make it easier for queens who look like me, not to make them have to go through all the same hoops that I had to jump through.
And what were some of those hoops, by the way? So for people who don't know, kind of what you went through in the early days, or what that's like for queens like you.
Queens of color, there's a lot of assimilation. You see a lot of successful queens typically wear a lot of blonde hair and a lot of white costumes and blue eye contacts and things like that, and a lot of pop music that doesn't really reflect the music that we listen to at home. And so that's what Black Girl Magic now is, a show that you can do the stuff that you weren't allowed to do before. Even in Black Girl Magic, I make it a point to, at some point in the night, always wear cut off denim booty shorts, because when I started drag in Chicago, they were banned. You couldn't wear denim on stage in drag, and I was like, but Britney wears denim and Madonna wears denim. Oh, but because Beyonce wears denim, so it's not cute for a black girl. There was never a memo that went out, but it was kind of considered basic for black girls to do Beyonce, and I was like, why? And there's well, it's too top 40, we're trying to do different things. I'm
drag doesn't like top 40 at all right now. I'm
like, oh, excuse me, just because Britney and Madonna and all managed to fall off and Beyonce has a 20-year spotless career, just because she stayed current doesn't mean that she's not as edgy or interesting, so there was all these thinly veiled criteria for black queens that I just don't even take part in anymore. But those are the types of things that black queens had to do to fit in, just trying to be more and more commercial and crossover. And now I'm just trying to create a space where we can be as authentically ourselves and be celebrated for it.
It is also strange too to think of, especially so recently as season 10 in the culture, that an oppressed culture will have its own oppression within.
Yes.
I mean, I guess it's an obvious thing, but it still seems kind of shocking.
Yeah, you would think we'd be beyond that, but I think a lot of times people who are searching for equality are really just searching for privilege. It's like I don't want justice for all, I just want justice for me. And so I think people forget to leave the door open for everybody.
What do you think are some good things that people could do to maybe be more mindful of that?
I think mostly be willing to be wrong. You know what I mean? A lot of times people love to say to me, you think you're always right. And I'm like, okay, so tell me when and where I was wrong. Let me know, let's talk about it.
Specifics are helpful.
Or a lot of times I hear people say, I don't always agree with Vixen. I'm like, okay, tell me the time that you didn't, so I can, because then I can learn and be better about it myself. And I think a lot of times when people are called out or singled out for doing something insensitive, you know, the wall goes up because you're like, no, I would never. Okay, maybe you don't intend to, so you need to listen and hear about what you're doing that's making someone else uncomfortable.
Sure.
And listen with the intent to do better, you know, because I think we don't want to believe that we could be prejudiced or racist or ignorant.
Sure.
And so we don't listen to the conversation, but you could be a better person if you learn from that moment.
Right. No, that's a really good point. If you ask someone why, or did I say that the wrong way, if someone blanches at something, that's a way to learn. It's a teachable moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we just all have to be ready to learn. I wouldn't have gotten through the past year if I wasn't as stubborn as I am, but even when no one's saying it, I do look at people's eyes and see, did you wince when I said that? How do you feel? You know what I mean?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. And in my job, it's sometimes if I'm making you uncomfortable, I'm doing the right thing. And so I have to, it's a lot of gauging.
Yeah, it's a constant balancing act, it seems, right?
I'm like, okay, did I make a Nazi uncomfortable or did I make my grandma uncomfortable? There's a difference.
Yeah, I saw a freaky photo on Twitter the other day. Someone was just at like a fast food place, and in front of them was a person with just an obvious swastika tattoo on them.
So I was leaving DC last weekend, and there was a big group of kids, and I was like already disgusted. But then someone pointed out that they were wearing Make America Great Again hats, and they were getting on the same flight as me. And
great.
What crossed my mind is I've seen instances where people with turbans have been turned away from flights because of ignorance, and I'm like, well, right now, what's on their head is making me uncomfortable. So can we get them off of this flight?
Plus, it'll be a lot quieter.
Right, it'll be a lot quieter. But you know, at the end of the day, they all had to board in Group 9 and walk past me in first class. So,
so that works out nicely.
It was a small win, but a win.
Take every little one. They add up. Yeah, it's good. Oh, we mentioned edibles before. What's your favorite strain of weed?
I like a sativa. I like a euphoric moment because I'm usually hopped up on caffeine. So it takes a lot to bring me down. And so, you know, any good gummy, chocolate. Yeah. I don't like to carry actual weed because, you know, it's not legal in Chicago yet.
Right. Yeah. Candy though.
Candy.
It's hard
to, I keep a lot in my Altoid box.
I got a sweet tooth. What do you want?
I just like sugar. Okay. And no one questions that.
Right. No, exactly. I love Jasmine's trick. I think she had like regular gummy bears or gummy worms or something, and then like the special ones. And I can't remember how she differentiated which ones were which and snuck them into Drag Race, but then was like incredibly high on edibles during one of the first challenges. So it kind of maybe backfired.
Yeah, I had to pre-approve caffeine pills for the show.
Oh wow! So caffeine pills? You're that into caffeine?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, I just thought maybe it was coffee all day or something. But
no, because I'm an ex-barista, and so I used to do coffee all day. And then, but you do a latte or whatever, and you end up drinking tons of milk and sugar.
Yeah, totally.
And so I switched to caffeine pills because I can drink them with a bottle of water, and it's only equal to a cup of coffee. So I'm not on speed. I'm not Jesse Spano or anything. But yeah, it keeps me from drinking sugar, and So
you never developed a taste for Americanos?
I did, but you know. You're still spending, especially I remember I used to live across the street from a Starbucks.
Forget about it. Yeah.
It was like spending $10 a day for, I was like, or having Red Bull cans lining my living room.
And still with Red Bull, it's like spending $3.30 or something.
$3.30, and then the sugar and the guarana and everything in your body is like. So I've water and caffeine strictly.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, keep it simple.
Yeah.
In terms of alcohol and stuff, do you drink?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I drink. Oh yes.
Please don't get me wrong.
The inner me got really excited about that. But yeah, so I typically I've whittled it down to being able to drink a vodka soda. I could not imagine that when I was 21. I was like, what monster drinks just water and vodka?
Because the first time you taste a vodka soda, you're like, this is a blunt instrument.
Yeah.
It's meant for destruction.
Yeah.
I can't get into this. Yeah.
Right. And 3 years later, I was like, you know what? Keep all the sugar in there. I do enjoy, my favorite cocktail is a cucumber effin with lemonade.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah,
cucumber anything is a solid choice. Yeah,
and it makes your breath fresh throughout the night. You keep going. Yeah, but after that fourth one, you can get a little tart.
You can have too much cucumber.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you'd like to keep the sugar low, as do I. What are some of your favorite road foods then? Because it can be tricky sometimes to eat well on the road.
Well, I am a big fan of gluten-free gummy bears made by Black Forest. They are gluten-free, sugar-free, fat-free. I'm sure they're basically pork, but that's one of my big go-tos. I do like trail mix because I don't eat enough meals a day, so that's like a good way to have like a little extra protein.
They're good on planes as well. I always try to get a bag before, especially when you're doing overnight flights, because sometimes the staff
all the restaurants are closed.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So gummy bears and trail mix are my like breakfast of champion. And then I do eat good. That was one thing that I needed Drag Race money for, because I have always had an expensive appetite. I love salmon. I love
same here. I just had salmon before the taping.
A good medium rare steak,
Same here.
And anything that comes with a side of asparagus or sauteed spinach, I'm all about it. So I knew that I would one day have to afford the life I became accustomed to.
Do you cook at all?
I do. I'm getting better. I just got my own place in November.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I was really not thinking about the kitchen, and my mom was like, you need a big pot and a little pot. I was like, no, I don't. I promise I won't. But eventually we had a polar vortex in Chicago, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to leave the house for a few days. So I got some groceries, and my sauteed spinach holds up, and my Alfredo, and I make really good Spanish rice. And
It's good to have a few like solid things that you can rely on.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get better at cooking again, because I'm too into getting Postmates. I'm trying to reduce that. Yeah, especially when you're like, well, the salmon that. I don't want to go make the salmon. And then
then I gotta clean the salmon. And
it's a whole thing. And then if your apartment traps the cooking smell, so I got an Instapot. And I barely used it. So hopefully by the 6 month mark of having it, I'll use it.
You'll find like there'll be those go-to things that you can make without. I factor in time and effort, and I'm like, I'd rather just pay someone else to do it.
Yeah, see, I've been doing that too, and it made me feel better about it, because I felt like a little gross. Like I was like, I'm ordering a lot, but then if I'm editing all day or whatever, if we have a bunch of tapings, then I'm like, okay, well, I don't have time to.
I can't be my own maid.
Right. Like the last time I made chicken salad, it took me too long, and then I was like, I could have done a bunch of work. Now I have that work to do.
You could have been working while someone else was cooking.
Exactly, right. Or like walk down the street for 5 minutes, get a nice little bit of fresh air, go to Gelson's and get some of their chicken salad. I'm
very much that. There's a nice deli underneath my building, and so
that's amazing.
But even sometimes the walk to the deli, I'm like, I wish I could just call someone to bring me something from my own lobby.
Someone I taped with in New York, Sammy Joe was telling a story about someone did that. It was a Starbucks in the same building, and I guess they were hungover.
Yeah,
and they had it.
Oh yeah. A lot of times, if I wake up hungover, I'll call my assistant to come to my house and get Gatorade from my own building and bring it up, because I can't make it down the elevator.
You need a system. You need a system.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, do you drink at the gigs? And if you do, what's your system for doing that?
I mostly do college gigs, so there's not a lot of drinking going on.
Yeah.
If there's a nightclub situation, 3 is like the cap, maybe a shot with that. Even last night at Mickey's, I was like, after that second shot, I was like, all right, we're gonna wrap it up for now. I try not to. I don't like performing drunk or high. Can be, because my perception of time changes, and so I'm like, am I spending a long time in this corner? It's too much. Like the number is 5 minutes, but for me it was an eternity.
Exactly.
So I try not to. After the show, I'm good for an after party. I can stay up all night and do that, but I try to be on my best behavior during the show.
And what were the shows that you did this weekend? You did a bunch with Morgan McMichaels?
Yeah. So I was here to do UCLA. They had a great Pride Week, and then we did Evita, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And then Morgan brought me to Hamburger Mary's in Ontario, and then I did the VIP in Riverside, I think. And then next we were in Palm Springs, and I did Toucan and got to see Ross's Bubbly Brunch.
How was that?
It was really good. Yeah. Jessica Wilde was there, Delta Work. Great show. And then last night we did Mickey's. so 8 shows in like 5 days. Not bad.
What's your schedule like when you get back?
When I get back, 1 a day. I typically only do weekends, and then I do Black Girl Magic is every 3rd Wednesday in Chicago. And so I typically go and do colleges on the weekend and then do my own during the week. because it's a monthly show, I like to spend the month preparing. So I always make like a big opening costume and like props and stuff for the show. So I like to be at home whittling away and making new stuff.
Yeah. Did you find it difficult to pace yourself after the show? Offers are coming in, and it's a hard thing to refuse money.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm definitely still learning when to say no to things, and it's usually, if it's just logistically a nightmare, that's when I'm like, I'm not gonna. If there's 3 layovers, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Things get a lot less appetizing when that happens.
But directly after the show, it was like, yes, I'll send me everywhere. I want to try all the things. And then we did a tour, and the tour ended the day that DragCon started in New York. And then right from DragCon, I started my college tour. So I was, up until December, I hadn't been home for more than like 3 days in a row.
Wow.
And then so this year, so thank God that there's been 5 more seasons of Drag Race since I was on. So I've been able to balance it out more and make it count when I perform.
Yeah, they really are going crazy with the scheduling. Like, what was there, a week between All Stars, the last All Stars and the new season? It really gives a head spinner.
Yeah. Even All Stars 3, I remember the end of their last episode, the commercial for our first episode came out. It was like, So I mean, which means that we're doing something right.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's solid. And I think they just filmed the UK edition, right?
UK and Thailand is kicking ass.
I have to watch that. I saw a couple clips.
Oh my God. And they're on 2 seasons. And so
that's right.
And they're miles ahead of us in drag. They're just way better. They just do it better.
Do you have any favorites on the new season
of Drag Race?
Yeah.
I am Team Evie. I'm so in love with Evie. Yeah. Evie, Akira, of course, Vanjie.
Sure.
I love people who are gritty and honest, and that their drag comes from an organic place and they're not trying to duplicate any character. I feel like Evie is very authentic and just raw.
Did the way you watch the show change after you were on? Yeah.
I don't watch it at all.
Oh, you don't? Okay. I was curious about that because I mean, even though a lot of great things came out of the way you handled the upset or the whatever happened, I can imagine that it's still a bit of a triggering thing.
It's traumatic, and
that's actually the word I was going to use.
No, feel free. I try to watch All Stars, and every once in a while I'd see something with the edit or the camera would jump in a way that didn't make sense, and I'm just too aware of it now. It makes it hard to enjoy, and then just seeing the workroom sometimes is stressful. Or they had this season 11. They had a lot of challenges that just I would have walked out. I wouldn't have made it through. Like
I'm gonna save y'all some time. I'm just gonna.
You want me to do a spoof episode on Black Panther? No, I'm leaving. I'm not doing a Trump musical. Never. You would never have gotten me in the room for that. You never would have. I would have boycotted. They would have had to fly a new girl out. That was like episode 3. They would have been like, well, I know you girls met Vixen. You never saw her before. They would have had to start all over.
Yeah, we have a new. You have mentioned before that you feel that the show should improve on its challenges to include challenges that are more welcoming. Is it to the people of color?
Yeah, because when you think about it, in the last couple seasons, we've had more than 4 or 5 queens of color. Yeah. Especially black queens, and then the challenges are Madonna runways and Cher runways, and it's like, so you're putting the majority at a disadvantage. And it also says something to the little kids that are watching, who are seeing people who look like them not fit in this world that isn't built for them. Yeah, it's just, I think we have to think about the implications of all of that. Especially the more popular we become, the influence is there, and it does shift the culture in a way. And so you really do have to be thoughtful about how you do that. I don't think it helps anybody to bring on 5 queens of color and then treat them as inadequate. It's like, it's a thinly veiled, oh, look what we did, except we're not gonna, we had even our top 4 song for season 10 was I Am American Just Like You Too. How tone deaf is that in 29 in this economy? No. I was like, okay. Yeah, that's another episode I wouldn't have been able to get through because this is a non-starter.
So do you think that RuPaul might want to be a little bit better at listening to criticisms like this, because I think that when Courtney raised some of these issues, shortly after that, RuPaul unfollowed Courtney. And it seems like maybe there's a little resistance there. Now, I don't know if that's total. Maybe it had to do with other things, but...
I mean, in what way is RuPaul unfollowing? So I feel like if you follow her, you should just, because it's gonna gain attention in any way.
Right.
But
also, if you're mad at someone, don't block them or whatever. Just let it be.
Yeah.
Let them see all your shit too.
Right. Yeah. That's really how you do it. Not that I follow that rule at all.
Are you a blocker?
Oh, I'm a blocker. Well, mostly just for my own self-care. If somebody's taking me out of my character and making me that upset, then that's when I like...
Well, that makes sense, right? Or now I like the mute function. The mute function is great. Yeah, and it's on Instagram too, which is great. Yeah,
I sometimes feel like I'm living in a bubble because there'll be comments that I don't see and people responding to things that I don't see.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, well, someone said something, but I'm not clicking that.
It is good though when you almost like pre-read stuff. Mm-hmm. You're just like, nope, not for me.
Yeah.
Did you struggle with that at first though? Because I mean, I can imagine it's tricky. Yeah.
I only learned about the muted words on Twitter this year, and it's been life-changing. But back to the original question, I think definitely if Ru wants Drag Race to say this iconic thing that is a voice for the people, you have to listen to the people and, kind of engage with the audience in a way that is for the betterment. Drag Race is a leader in the queer community. And so I think as a leader, you have to be very intent on guiding us in the right direction. I hear a lot of people say that, just the act of being in drag is a political act in itself. Yeah, that's not enough when we got a reality star in the White House. You gotta, my response to that is, and then throw a brick. Like, you can't, you put on your lashes and then you go punch a Nazi. You don't pat yourself on the back for wearing drag, especially in our tax bracket. You did drag to be brave. No, you did drag to make money. Now go do something for your community. And so I think we have to stop letting ourselves off the hook by being just enough or just chipping away, because if you're like, it's almost like we're stuck in the age of gay is okay. It's not brave to say that I'm here and I'm queer anymore. Like, we're beyond that point. We have gay people running for president right now. Like, we're beyond that point. Now we have to get more specific about what we want and what we need as a people. And I think in Ru's case, she's still patting herself on the back for employing drag queens, which is like, yes, but even with Black Girl Magic, yes, I'm creating jobs for other queens, but they are also contributing to my legacy by being involved with it.
Yeah. So do you find that you have to keep on top of that as well for yourself?
Yeah, there's definitely times where I feel like you ingrates, when you're trying to get the show started on time and somebody's late and you're like, I did this for you. But at the same time, when I see the girls on stage and when we get everybody up on callbacks, I'm so grateful that they rise to the occasion for me. Because, yes, I created the opportunity for them, but if they didn't show up and show out, we wouldn't have a second show or a third.
Certainly.
And same with Drag Race. If we didn't go through all the loops that we had to, we wouldn't have Emmys, we wouldn't have 10 seasons, we wouldn't have all this. That takes a lot of sacrifice from all the queens. One of my favorite things that I'm noticing now is, all of these queens, we spend a very short amount of time trying to put together our best drag for this show. And try to have all these different looks. Nothing is the same. Everything is different silhouettes and everything. And I've seen now Ru wear the same dress in about 4 different occasions. And I'm like, you're making millions of dollars an episode. You can't be recycling drag, lady. Like your Emmy dress can't be your All-Stars dress and your season 10 judging dress. We see that, and I think if Ru Girl was to wear the same shoes twice in the same month on an episode, there'd be a Reddit report and we'd be, and so it's things like that where you really have to lead by example.
Oh, and it's also good to always keep your standards high.
Yeah. Even now I find myself, if I feel like I'm phoning it in for even a second, I get very nervous because then I worry about the people watching me starting to phone it in. And so then the next Black Girl Magic is very elaborate and I'm like, you bitches better wake up, because just because I took a nap doesn't mean you can't.
I just get sleepy. Now we're back.
Now we're back, and this is what I expect from you.
Do you find yourself nervous before a show?
Before Black Girl Magic, I am only worried about the turnout.
Okay.
So,
no, I know what you mean.
As a show producer.
Well, sure. Yeah.
So once I get on stage and I count the heads in the room, I'm fine. As long as I know that everybody's getting paid, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then at other gigs, I'm typically very in control of the energy.
Yeah.
And I guess that goes into the songs that I chose. And as long as I know that there is a turnout and that I can do my job, I don't really get nervous. I just, once the music starts, I feel very in control of the situation.
Yeah.
And even at the deadest show, I have a lot of tricks in my bag. I can get the energy where I want it.
Sure.
So I don't get nervous at other shows. I get nervous at Black Girl Magic because I want it to be good every time.
Absolutely. And it's a part of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but really all that takes is for people to show up, because the queens are going to do their job. I'm going to do my job. I have so much fun hosting. Mm-hmm. Black Girl Magic is the one place that you can see me just happy. A lot of times you see me very serious about things, and I tackle some serious subjects in Black Girl Magic, but a lot of my friends tell me that it's the one place that they see me just joyful, because I just get to celebrate what I do.
When is it held during the month?
Third Wednesdays of every month.
Third Wednesdays
at
of every
Roscoe's,
month.
Yeah.
Now, I was wondering about the nervousness, just because I was reading some stuff recently about attachments people have to their work. Now, there's something like 3 different kinds, like a nervous attachment. I can't remember what the second one is, but then there's like a serene or calm attachment, where you sort of realize that, wait, this is what I do. So this is what I do. Like, it's not like I've been doing something for 4 years very well, and then suddenly today it's all going to go to hell, because people can get sometimes in that mindset.
A lot of my friend T-Rex in Chicago, she's pinned it as imposter syndrome.
Yes, yeah.
Where you're like, they're gonna find out today's gonna be the day that they realize you're a phony. And I definitely have had that, but it's typically more my social media. I'm like, one of these days you're gonna say something that is just, you're always so sure of yourself when you speak, and one day it's just gonna come out wrong.
Oh yeah.
Which I've had and I've bounced back from, so I feel a little bit better. But
and everyone has bad days.
Everyone has bad days. And I think even with performing, my track record is good enough where I trust myself to wiggle with it and go with the flow. And like, if someone's too drunk on stage, we're gonna have fun with that. If somebody is rude, we're gonna make fun of them, and the audience is gonna kick them out. And so I have a long enough track record of making it work that I don't worry as much. Yeah. My only anxiety about performing or about my drag persona is being understood or misunderstood. And so I'm always worried about, is the message coming across clearly? Is this number too abstract? Is this number too on the nose? Is it too soon? Because I tackle a lot of deep things in a club setting, and so I have to try to make sure that I make it entertaining while making you think and feel something, and that if I take you to a dark place, do I bring you back out of it, or do I leave you there?
Right. So you do feel responsibility for the audience.
Yeah. And I try to think of it all as just energy. I want people to leave feeling good. I want people to feel good while they're there.
And feel like they're getting something.
Yeah, and feel like they're getting something. It's almost like Black Girl Magic is like being at church. You feel like I'm here to release my stress, I'm here to address my stress, and then when I walk away, I'm gonna have less stress to deal with. Which or you at least feel empowered enough to handle it in the real world,
which is really the ultimate aim of all art.
Just finding a way to deal with life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, when did you start drag?
I started lip syncing in 2013. I've been a androgynous little cross dresser since I was probably a junior in high school when I started like really wearing heels and playing with it, and so that was like 2007. So I've been like on a little androgynous journey And then the more I got into drag, I noticed the less my male persona needed to play. So
okay.
now
Yeah.
I still you can see me now, I'm like in Galaxy jeans.
Oh yeah, this is great. We'll take photos too before you go, so everyone can see.
Yeah, I'm still very, I guess, flamboyant about the way I dress.
Those are great shoes. What kind of shoes are those?
These are loafers. I think they're Sam Edelman, but I got them on Amazon.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm still about. I like to pick out cool things.
Yeah,
and I don't care what it costs. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to. If you're doing it right, it'll look expensive anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And so my favorite thing is to tell people how cheap my outfit is. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Yeah.
It's great to like discuss someone with like, no, I got this for like $10.
Yeah. And like everyone in the room is looking, but I'm wearing trash, I promise you. Yeah. And even that is like a good message to be, because a lot of people feel like they can never have this lifestyle because they can't afford it.
That's true.
And I do not spend more than I spent 2 years ago on clothes. Maybe for drag, because the expectation is so much higher.
Sure, it's also essentially a business expense. You're buying business materials.
Yes,
right?
And after having done my taxes, I am so happy. Whew. I was worried because the income was there, and then I was like, okay, but I also spent a lot, so
right.
So get off my back. Okay, cool. That was a great learning experience. I was like, okay, so investments pay off. In a way.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just getting into that with like a business manager and stuff like that, which is great. And I'm like, okay, because you get nervous. You're like, okay, am I screwing up? Am I spending too much? Am I losing my head? You know, but then also you have to take care of yourself, and that also sometimes means treating yourself to things.
Yes, and for me, it's food. Like I was saying before, I love to eat good.
Same here.
Especially because it's a very personal thing. Nobody else gets to enjoy it. I try not to take pictures of my food a lot. Like I eat for my own enjoyment, and like that's my own nourishment. And you go on vacation and you take 100 selfies, and it's like this might as well be work because it's a social media blitz or whatever. But when I treat myself and eat good and stuff like that, I feel like it's personal. Yeah.
What else do you do for just personal enjoyment, things like that? Do you like to read or go to the movies? Like
I do. I love movies. I love Marvel movies. So it's been a really good year for me.
Oh yeah. Excited for the new Avengers then?
Yeah. I'm excited and nervous. This year in general is just great for television. Game of Thrones is giving me life.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I was high the other night and I watched Game of Thrones, and it was a terrible episode because spoiler alert, nobody dies in the episode, but I'm waiting the whole time. I'm like, there's gonna be an arrow coming at us. So the whole episode, I'm just paranoid all the way to the end, and I was like, oh great.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I like action movies and stuff like that, which is very cathartic. Listening to Hamilton makes me cry in an unhealthy way.
Oh, yeah.
So I do it when I need to cry.
Sure. No, that's a good thing. I love my go-to things. Yeah. I the reliables that will always do it. Like the poster behind you, Hedwig. Every time I see it, at least once or twice, maybe 3 times. Yeah.
And I'm always embarrassed at how emotional I am about something I've heard a million times before. And then this last year, I took my mom and her husband to go see Hamilton live in Chicago.
Yeah.
And it was a nice fun outing, and 2 songs in, I'm like turning away because I'm just a puddle of mess.
Yeah.
And like I didn't want to have to explain to my mom why it meant so much. But I'm just like, I don't know, it just hits the strings, right?
Yeah. No, my mom knows now. Like she took me when I was 21 or 22 to see Elton John, and like I don't know, like the second or third cry, she was like, "Are you all right?"
Right.
And I was like, "No, it's good." Yeah.
It just brings up emotions that you don't really get to tap into. So yeah, whenever I feel clogged in that way, and a lot of times, especially working as a public figure, I think there's a lot of times where you can't react.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And those like get bottled up, and you kind of get constipated in a way.
Sure.
And so sometimes I'll have this like lingering sadness that I can't remember where it came from.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't remember who did something but it's still in there. It's in the jar. And you're like, so I'll listen to something that'll help me get that emotion out.
The worst is when you wake up and you have that lingering thing and you're like, nothing happened yesterday.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah.
But it's because you pushed it down in the moment.
That's right.
And and now it's coming back up and you're like, I don't even remember why I was this upset about something.
Hey, can I ask you a question? Are you gay? Oh, okay. I mean, gay is okay, but, you know, queer is better. My name is Casey Spooner, and I'm running for president.
In that video, also, you mentioned microaggressions.
Yeah.
And I really like the way that you break down a lot of the things that happened on season 10, because I think a lot of that applies to life in general.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking about your interactions with Eureka post the show.
Yeah.
And you explained this scenario where when people you don't really want to be around force you into being nice or playing along with their game in public, because if you don't,
then you're the bad guy.
Yes. And I think we've all been there. Do you have any advice for people on how to handle that sort of thing?
I think what I wish I had the energy or strength to do in the moment was say, hey, she's bothering me.
Yeah, right.
Can anyone please make it stop? And I got lucky, and we were doing a show in Boston over the summer, and it was one of the first times that me and her were in the same room, and there was other season 10 queens, and they got to see how, you know, the elephant excuse the pun, but the elephant in the room was there. Everybody knew that neither one of us needed to, and so it just felt very bizarre for everyone to see her trying to strike up a conversation with me when clearly you shouldn't be. And so I would just make eyes with everyone else and be like, are you seeing this? Are you witnessing what I'm, and that kind of helped me like shed it, because then people kind of got, oh yeah, she definitely is not respecting your boundaries there.
Because it's hard for people to see that, because everyone, I think, wants to ascribe high intentions or good intentions to people. And if someone's appearing friendly or appearing cheerful, it's very hard, especially when you're kind of drowning inside.
It's very insidious to walk up to your enemy with a smile and demand to have lunch. And you're like, I don't want to. Well, why don't you? Because I don't like you. But I'm being nice. But you're not always nice. Like, yeah.
And so, and nice now won't fix the other feelings.
Right. Yeah. Especially if you haven't worked to address those or apologize in any way. And now you're just forcing me to deal with your, you know, it's like you slapped me in the face and then you said, let's go to lunch. And it's like, I don't want to sit with you.
Again, the cognitive dissonance thing.
Yeah. And it's like, some people, even when they attack you, they want you to forgive them on their time. And it's like,
in their terms.
Yeah. And for me, I'm a grudge holding motherfucker. So it takes a while for me to shed that. But the best thing to do is to give me the space to do it. And so I can see you as a person again instead of the enemy.
Right, especially if they're not respecting your feelings.
Right. Then that wound never heals because you keep poking at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Have you had to deal with that sort of thing outside the show as well?
Yeah, on a lot of occasions.
Yeah.
I've kind of gotten better at it, but it took a lot of mishaps for me to realize that, you know, how I was talking about before, like when you push something down, it just comes back
absolutely
up later.
Yeah.
And I think on the show I did a good job of reacting in the moment, and that kind of gave me a little bit more sanity to go, because I wasn't bottling it in.
Yeah.
We talk about do you die on the sword or do you die by 1,000 little cuts? And, you know, I died on the sword every time. You know, and when I think about touring now, you know, had I bit the bullet and played the game a little bit better and ended up in the top 5, I would have been on tour for Eureka for almost a year.
Oh, that's right.
And that would have killed me in a completely different way. So in a lot of ways it worked out for the best, because I got to go places on my own terms and experience it with people I liked. And but I could have been in a room full of people who had betrayed me in a way, and
reliving the trauma every day or every week,
and having to be in these beautiful places acting like I'm enjoying it. That would have killed.
There's nothing worse, by the way, than that. Yeah,
I've been on vacations with people I don't like.
I think we all have.
It ruined Rome for me, I'll tell you. It ruined Rome. So yeah, it doesn't. So I much rather would be the person who addresses the hurt in the situation. And who's to say, you know, at the end of the day, you're traveling the world, but you're doing it with people you can't see. I don't know if is that a win for you? Even if I'm in the smallest town, if I'm doing what I love with people that I like, I feel like that's a win.
I think that's a win. And also you're able to have the food that you like at any given time.
Get to eat good. Yeah.
Before you were on the show, who were your favorite queens?
I'll say it every time. Tyra Sanchez.
Yeah.
She always comes to mind. Of course, Shea Coulee, Kimchi, all the Chicago queens, really. Dita's freaking beast. I love anybody who can rise to the top with very limited supplies. So people like Sharon, people like Dita.
Yeah.
Anyone who like really made things. Lanacia Sparks is a great example of somebody who was very talented. And, you know, there's a lot of politics in those types of things. I always feel for any queen who was on the show and a language barrier had to do with the reason. I hate that concept and that trope. Don't cast people if you're not going to celebrate them as they are. But yeah, I was always a big fan of queens who made their own stuff.
Yeah. And that reminds me of when you took justifiable offense to the crafty queens.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah, because it's sort of a backhanded.
It's a backhand. And that whole instance where Eureka was trying to jump into me and Monique's conversation is also kind of a microaggression, because here it is, two black queens just trying to push each other after our critiques, just being like, yeah, you gotta go. Yeah. And then here comes this girl who's like, yeah, and me too. No, we're let us have this moment, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why Black Girl Magic is important, is because we don't get to be alone in the dressing room a lot.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah, sure.
Back in the day, whenever me and Shay would be alone in the dressing room for 2 seconds, we were like, girl, so then the manager walk in and we get real quiet. And you know, so it's important to have those spaces to just connect with somebody who's going through the same thing in the same way as you. And if you're the type of person who sees two people connecting and you feel the need to interject, that says something about you as well.
Sure, I get you completely on that. Yeah.
There was a time where I could count it on my hand. I could be talking to my assistant who was Mexican, or the manager of the bar who was white, or anything like that, and have no problem. The second I started talking to another black queen, someone was always tapping me on my shoulder. Hey, what's going on over here?
Really?
None of your business. You know what I mean? And it was like, people had no problem interrupting two black people. You know what I mean?
Oh, sure. I see what you mean. Okay.
And I see that sometimes in like stores or in lines where, you know, there'll be a line, and then there'll be people need to pass through the other way. And I've noticed that if there's a black person in front of me and a white person behind me, they're going to go through the two black people and not through the, you know what I mean? You're not going to inconvenience. And it's little subliminal things like that I'm way too aware of and can't enjoy anything in life. And so sometimes I try to tune those things out. But those types of things are the microaggressions that people don't realize affect us every day.
Some people don't even know the phrase microaggression that well, and I think knowing how to term things I find helps so much. Yeah, that
was something that I'm proud of doing on Drag Race, was introducing these new phrases that kind of give the queens of color an armor to say, okay, now you're gaslighting me. Okay, that's tone policing. You know, those were words that weren't around in season 9, and so.
Plus, gaslighting is a good concept for everyone to be familiar with, because people fucking do it a lot.
People do it so much.
Yeah.
Now I'm so used to identifying and addressing these things that when I see those types of people, I'm like, oh, you're a monster. Or, you know, like, it's like, ooh, we gotta get a cage. Like, it's like it's almost like reading an aura. I'm like, whoa, you're coming in red hot.
Yeah, how quick is it that you can read someone's energy? Because I feel like I'm pretty good with it, but people slip through, you know what I mean?
Yeah. The ones that slip through, though, they hurt the most.
That's true. That's very true. Very true. Because you were like, I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. They got in there, and oh my God, everything's ripped up now.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm typically really, really good. And it's because it seems guarded, but I try not to be guarded, but I try to just be as aware as possible. Mm-hmm. So like if I go into a dressing room and I can tell that someone, we call it Shark Week, when someone's circling me but speaking to everyone but me.
Oh,
and I'm I'm the headliner of the show. You know who I am. But you want to play it cool. Like, so I don't give that person attention. I'm like, you clearly are going to suck the life out of me once you get the chance.
Right. Yeah.
So most of the times I'm protecting my own aura in that way. And like, I'm like, okay, I'm getting a bad vibe over here. We're not going to give them too much. We're not. And when I get to a show, my goal is to have a good time.
Yeah.
And so anything or anybody that I feel like is going to be take me down a road that's not going to lead to a good time, I just avoid them and build up the walls. I'm really good at like clocking bullshit from a distance.
Yeah.
So that, and like, a lot of times my friends would be like, hey, let's hang out with these guys. And I'm like, no. And they're like, what? I'm like, well, he's drunk. We're not from here. You know,
oh, right.
Like, let's add it up. How do you think it's going to end? You know, like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. I think I'll just go home.
Yeah. And there's sometimes where I'm like, okay, you seem sober and reliable, and okay, I'll deal with you. And then if that goes sour, then I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, I know the kicking yourself for like being like, I should have known.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if I'm the one who's always so on it.
Yeah.
When anything slips through the cracks, I'm like, you fool.
But we always have to cut ourselves slack for that because again, we're all only human.
Yeah.
And also sometimes, you want to see the better in someone or some situation.
Yeah.
And also when you go, I shouldn't be so sour about everything.
Right, yeah. And then the one time you're not so sour, and you just bury. I'm going to be a hermit one day. You'll just bury yourself so deep.
The salmon being delivered. Yeah.
That was me. So after we got eliminated from Drag Race, we weren't allowed to be out in public until everyone was out in public.
How long?
So for me, it was 2 weeks.
Okay.
It was 2 weeks until I could like be on social media again, or even, and I live in a gay neighborhood, so I really couldn't go outside. So I was just Postmates every day and hoping that the delivery guy wasn't gay. So, like, please don't know. Like I even got to my house and came in through the back way because my doorman was gay and he would have figured it out. So I was just like, I don't want anyone to know I'm home.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Self-care is probably going to be like my thesis statement of 2019. It's just not only like pampering your body, but looking at things from a distance and saying, that's going to be a headache later. I'm going to go in this direction.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the reason that I'm not watching Drag Race, I watch like the clips on Instagram and stuff like that. But the reason I'm not watching it so closely is when I see things that get me really fired up and I want to comment on them, so now I've commented on, now I got to deal with hundreds of fans responding to it. And that's not fair to me, who really just wanted to sleep in the first place.
That's a really good point. And you're 28, right?
Yeah.
So it's a really remarkable thing that you're this aware of what triggers you, and all these things, because it often takes people a lot longer in life to like arrive at that. So that's like that's a really impressive thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Especially because it's like, what do they call it? The devil's candy. That's like a euphemism for drugs. But I think really today it's social media, because the instant,
the instant response and stuff. Like, a lot of times I'll find myself spending the whole day on Twitter and not talking to anybody that I actually know, and I'm like, what was that like, I have real friends, let me go. Why am I dealing with these strangers? So I've tried to get better about that, and just trying to avoid, like, it's not my job to chase down every episode of Drag Race to point out every microaggression. I'm not going to make that my career,
right? Because that's its own pitfall. That's its own rabbit hole of like being the police of the appropriate behavior or something.
Right. I'll have a lot of material to go off of, but it's kind of like being a comedian when there's a bad president. Like you got a lot of or like, well, I guess the best example would be a dumb president. So
that's true. Yeah, like, it's way better because you can just goof on him constantly.
Right.
Yeah.
So like we haven't really had that since George W. Bush, where we were just like, he's an idiot and it's funny. And then we had Obama and it was like, okay, and now we have an idiot, but it's not funny.
It's really not funny. Yeah. It's hard to laugh about it. Yeah. So when you grew up, you said you came from a lower economic situation. Can you describe that a little about what it was like growing up?
The good thing is that my mom was always working on the come up. My mom had me when she was 19. And so we started off in like a small, I think it was not even small. It was a 3-bedroom apartment, but there was my grandmother, my mom, and my uncle and me in a 3-bedroom apartment. And then I grew up on Inglewood, Chicago. And so, there's always police lights and shootings. I knew what guns looked like way too early. But my mom always preached to me about staying out of trouble. I was one of those kids who, if I saw an older cousin get into trouble for doing it, you could guarantee that I would never get in trouble for that thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I would always get in trouble for very bizarre things because it'd be like, well, you didn't make a rule about that. How did I heard about it? Right. Okay. Well, I won't break your rule or whatever. And so then like my mom bought an apartment building and we rented it and stuff like that. And so we always worked our way up. And then after my grandmother passed, I was going to a junior high school, and I talk about this in my song Chicago, being snatched off of a school bus because my school was in like a rival fight with another school, and they didn't as long as you had on that school uniform, you were getting beat up.
Okay.
And that was just the volatile situation.
Yeah.
And so after that, and at the time I had a modeling contract. I was like 14. And this guy's older brothers were going to make him a man. And so they singled out the one boy walking with 5 girls. Me, of course, coming from dance class. And had his,
because they're
like,
so tough. That's what they're gonna, right.
We're gonna attack the guy walking with girls.
Yeah.
And so me with my modeling contract, even though one of my cousins is a trained MMA fighter. We've all taken lessons in wrestling. Like I could crush a lot of people.
Yeah.
But me being like, protect your face. You have an audition tomorrow. And so this kid beat me up, runs off. My mom, being very good friends with a lot of people in the police academy and stuff like that, she knew instantly, met me at the police station. They had already got the name of the person or whatever. And then my dad, who was on the other side of things, knew a lot of people in gangs, and I had 12 brothers and sisters. And so it was like, the cops were ready to get this guy and the gangs were ready to get this guy. And I was like, I am not. And even in that moment, I had enough wokeness to be like, okay, I'm not going to ruin another kid's life. I'm not hurt. You know what I mean? Like, there's
still got the contract. There's no damage.
He didn't get the face. You know, like, there's no bruises. And so it was fine. But my dad did circle the block a few times. And so the line in Chicago is, I got snatched off of that school bus, but I came back with a few cousins. So that was the kind of like neighborhood that I grew up in. And after that instance, my mom was like, okay, I'm moving you to the suburbs. There's an art school out here. And so I started show choir at Creep-Loney High School. And that was life-changing because I got to take a class about performing every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a major difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To like go in class and they're like, okay, today we're going to talk about facials. And you're like, we're doing mud mask? And they're like, no, when you're on stage, you need to make facial expressions that convey the message.
Oh, wow. And
so we would have days where we would just focus on, like, we wouldn't even sing out loud. We would just like, it would be the most bizarre thing to just see people lip syncing mute. And, and it would be like, okay, who today had the best facial? And I would win a lot because I had big eyebrows and I could really
sell the
which now works to my advantage too, because I see the craziest faces.
Yeah.
And then we have like action shots from the shows, and so when the camera's going like 1,000,000 shots per second, and you just catch like the weirdest contorted faces, you're just like, and I learned to be okay with like looking goofy for a second if it gets the point across.
Yeah, right.
So I think that made me a much better performer. And then like all the dance lessons and stuff that went with that, but just learning to rehearse and dedicate your time to something. It was a really good experience, and it really did change like my life and put me on a better path for going to Columbia College and meeting photographers and stuff like that. Sure. But had I stayed in the school where I was getting jumped, you know, when I think about a lot of those classmates, they're not in situations I want to be in. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of that must have really helped too when you did start doing drag.
All of the stuff at the art school really prepared me. Like I took theater makeup college. Words. I took
hey, listen, I did that like 8 times so far.
I took theater makeup in college, and that taught me how to glue down my eyebrows. And I was like, okay, I don't have to shave them down like every other drag queen. Okay, and so because I was very reluctant to do drag because I thought that it would ruin my boy.
Oh, sure.
You know, like I was too married to being like a cute guy and
having eyebrows.
And having eyebrows. It's very important to me to this day. I'm looking up. Every drag race queen gets like a little work done after a couple of years.
Yeah, right.
And mine is going to be microblading. I'm going to get everybody else is like getting their cheekbones and stuff, and I'm like, I just want thicker brows.
Yeah.
Being in art school definitely led me to drag through musical theater and all of that stuff. And eventually enough people saying, you know, you should just put on a wig already.
And you'd already been sort of playing around with cross-dressing.
Yeah. I would get extensions because my hair was growing out a little bit. And so I would have extensions, and that was just my little unicorn persona.
Yeah.
And I knew that I didn't identify as trans. I knew that I liked my body as it was. I just wanted longer hair.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing. And then I would shave the sides of my hair and do like little makeup murals on my head. It just took a while to get it going. And then like I had to really shed like all of the masculine ideals that I was holding on to. I was like, because if I was in a relationship as a top, I would feel like, okay, well, I definitely got to put all my queer stuff away and just be the man in the. And it took me a while to let that go and actually to be like, yes, I am the drag top.
I like this and I like this.
I like this and I like this. Give me a second, let me wash my face, or don't.
Either way, whichever. Yeah. Now, did you find that any of your boyfriends had any issue with it, or was it an internal thing?
I think for the most part, it was all in my head. I think
it's interesting. A lot of things in life, right?
Yeah.
You think that it's the other person.
Yeah, I think that they're putting this on to me, but they're really not.
Yeah.
And I think most of my ex-boyfriends were probably drawn to me when I was being very androgynous and feminine.
Sure.
And the more we dated, I started trying to fit a role.
Right.
And that just didn't work for either one of us. Yeah. And then my last relationship, I was in a 3-year relationship, and he was quite feminine and allowed me to be myself as well. And it just worked that way because it was like, we are who we are. And
right.
On our first date, which was actually just a hookup, I was like, do you want to watch Drag Race? It's the finale. So we watched Violet get crowned and we ate Chipotle.
That's like a great first date.
Yeah. And so that one, I was like, okay, I can live this life. Yeah.
How'd you meet your drag mother?
My drag mother, she came to a show, Savannah Westbrooke. I was rapping live and I was being very androgynous. I had on, at that point, it might as well have been drag. I had on heels, I had on a bra, I had on a wig, I had on very bad hip pads, and my makeup was questionable. But I did a show, and when I tell you I was wearing heels, I was wearing fetish stiletto, 6-inch sloped heels, and I did a dance number and I was rapping, and she saw me and she was there just to sing. And she said, I have a show, you should really come next week or whatever. And I was like, okay, sure. And when I got there, I got all dressed up and she booked me on the spot for the next week, and I did it, and it was my first time lip syncing Beyonce, of course. And then I remember, so that was my first night, and then another queen had come, Kiki Van Cartier, who's my drag sister.
Great name. So
great. And she's a power ballad queen. She's a bigger queen, big pageant hair, all this stuff. So you have this brand new dancing queen and this new power ballad queen, and they only have room for one girl on the show.
Oh, okay.
So we kind of had to like battle it out. And so I did my best Rihanna, Nicki Minaj mix that I could muster up, and she did. I probably like, and I Am Telling You or something.
Okay, sure.
And they couldn't choose between us, and so we both got casted for the show.
Oh, that's great. A double save.
Yeah, double save. Yeah, with black people involved. How about it? And so that was a great thing. And then Savannah took us under her wing, and she was very reluctant to call me her sister because she wanted to say that we were close in age. She was like, I can't be your mother, we're too young. But no, she definitely taught me the chops as it pertained to drag. I was a good performer because of show choir and all of that stuff. But when it comes to drag, you have to, okay, you're gonna do your dance routine, but don't forget to collect your tips, get your money, girl. And like,
right, there's a lot of spinning plates.
Yeah. Or like doing a ballad that's sad without making the audience sad.
Right.
Because she talked me into doing Toni Braxton's Unbreak My Heart in a gown with a short bob on, and I was so out of character for me. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And it was the driest performance I've ever done. I was tipped about $2 total. And she says that I looked at her from the stage and she could just read my mind saying, never again, never again, bitch. But the thing was, I was acting, and so I was sad and melancholy and all of that.
Fully into it,
but when you do a ballad, you really just want to be glamorous and let the song play out.
Sure.
And like let people just like get swept in the fantasy.
Right.
But if you take them to a gut-wrenching place, then you got to wash it off and like,
right. And then the next number.
Right, yeah. It's trying to be a comedy number and you leave the audience in a stank place. So that was something I learned from her, was how to perform without, and that's controlling the energy in the room too.
Sure,
is like
right.
what you're doing with your stage presence and how it affects everybody.
Really, being aware of energy is the first step to controlling it.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
being like, how to read the room.
it's so important with so many things. Yeah,
I talked to like dancing queens say, I've tried to just do a little, but it's like I get bored on stage. If I feel like I'm not exciting myself, then you're gonna get 3 death drops and a jump split because I'm like, y'all aren't making enough noise for me. I need some more. Like, let's wake these people up.
Yeah.
So that's why I did 8 shows in 6 days, and I have a bruise going up from here to the knee that started on Wednesday. So I really should have stopped 6 days ago.
Oh yeah, right. No, you've built the through the whole leg though. Yeah.
But if I was to go out and just do a tiptoe, I would never forgive myself.
Right. So it's worth the bruise because the other thing hurts worse.
Yeah. Until next time you see me and I don't have a leg at all, then my perspective will be a bit different.
Right.
But
sure. Then you can adapt. You can do different stunts. And
then
everything.
I'll try that ballad again.
Different wig, maybe.
You know what I think really helps with doing less on stage is having wind machines.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're standing still and your hair's still moving, that's entertainment.
Yeah, you can watch that for a good long time.
Yeah, Beyonce kills it. And she does a lot of dancing and all of that, but something about her just standing there with the wind blowing really gets it.
Yeah. And how many times have you seen Beyonce? I'm assuming you've seen Beyonce.
Yeah.
Well, I had a feeling.
My first time was Destiny's Child's last tour.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that was a really great start because she was already Beyonce, but she was still in Destiny's Child.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And then I've seen the Beyonce Experience, which was a completely perfect drag show, and the Formation World Tour. And I didn't see On the Run 1, but I saw On the Run 2 twice this past summer. I got to see it from the nosebleeds and on the floor.
That's actually cool because you experience it in a totally different way with a big show like that. Yeah.
Seeing a stadium show from the nosebleeds is great because you get to take in the gravity of how many people are here to enjoy this. And so it was like kind of like a wow, like we really love her this much.
Right. Yeah.
And then being like right next to the stage and being like, okay, I need to take notes on lights, dancers. Okay, what are the cues? I remember being at the second show and the guy next to me was like, are you okay? Because I was like just stoic and stone-faced.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am taking notes. Like I've seen the show already. I just want to know how it's done now.
Yeah, sure.
The weird part is because they have the 2 runways that come out into the audience. And so I was on one side and Beyonce came down and like was standing right in front of me, and then the stage elevated into the sky. And I was like, what am I on? Because Beyonce just walked up to my face and then flew into the heavens. What is going on? But yeah, she's always been a big leader in my drag persona. And when I think about it, before then, I was always drawn to Tu Wong Fu, and then What's Love Got to Do with It.
Oh yeah, sure.
And like people like Vanessa Williams. And I think if you think of like that legacy trope where like Tina Turner, you can see the inspiration in Beyonce and Tina Turner. So
sure.
Of course I just hopped from one bandwagon to the next. Yeah.
No, it's a logical line.
Yeah.
Your progress from when you started to getting on Drag Race is very quick.
It's well, because I knew makeup, so it just took me a while to get the hang of drag makeup. Yeah. And then once I did that, it was just all experiments. Maybe I want to do big brows. Maybe I want to do... And then I figured out what face I wanted to. There was a season... Around season 8, I was doing a very convincing feminine face. Like, it was... The eyebrows were there, but I wasn't... It wasn't a lot of glitter. It wasn't a lot of frills. It was very just natural look, you know? And then I found these like gold glitter liners and started really doing crazy stuff with my eyes. And that's now kind of the signature that I'm known for, is like the gold brows and everything. But yeah, if I would have gotten on season 9, you would have met a whole different queen.
Oh, it's interesting.
Yeah. Which makes me think that by this time next year, who am I going to be? Well, I'm probably a little bit more pigeonholed to
a certain...
because the brand is there now.
Sure.
I wrote the brand.
Well, and what about music too? Because you've been putting music out since when? When was your first single out?
Well, this time last year I put out Room Part 1 when we got announced, just to let people know that I had music,
Yeah.
but I didn't really have connections with enough producers to make an album. And I've been spending this year working on a completed album. And because I travel so much and my producers are in Chicago, it's very hard. And then my producers travel. So
Sure.
I'm getting home tomorrow night and my producer leaves for a month as soon as I get home. And so
Perfect.
the album's been pushed back a month, you guys. I'm sorry. but so that is coming soon. But I've been writing music since I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
I remember writing songs as a kid, and my uncle would be like, "Why do you even know what this means?" Like, I would just make love songs based on love songs that I heard before.
Sure. Yeah.
And he'd be like, "You don't know anything about this emotion." And it's weird because now I'll pull up songs that I wrote a long time ago that I didn't know what the hell I was talking about when I wrote it, and now it means so much.
Right.
Like Tea Party, I wrote 7 years ago, and it was just me kind of projecting what kind of queen I wanted to be, and like wanted to be in the club scene and like all of that stuff. Drinks on me, you know? Like that.
Sure.
And now it all makes sense. I'm like, oh, when I say put something in my cup to help me forget, there's a lot of drugs that do that. And I'm like, oh, and I knew nothing about drugs at the time, and I was just talking shit. And now I've lived all of those experiences.
Yeah.
So I'm very afraid of when I get inspired to write a song, I'm like halfway predicting the future. And so I'm like, careful. I try not to write bad things down. I'll remember them, but if it's like something heinous, I won't write it on paper. Like, it's superstition.
Yeah, well, it makes sense though, because a lot of it is manifestation.
Yeah. And then you repeat it and you rehearse it, and then it gets into your
and that's back to that thing again about energy, because what you put out into the universe, you're actually asking for and calling to you,
and it comes to you.
It does.
My song Chicago, because when I was younger and living in the hood and stuff like that, a lot of times I didn't want to go outside because people would get in trouble or they'd be shooting and stuff like that. And like my mom she didn't have me on a tight leash. I could play with the kids and stuff like that, but I would rather be in the house drawing. And so I say, I miss my cousins and I love them and I hope that they're proud, but growing up I wasn't allowed to hang out at their house. I was the one who didn't allow me to hang out there because I didn't want to go somewhere that might get raided or something, you know, like
sure.
And so I put it on myself a long time ago to stay out of trouble. And then I say, damn, I did everything I said that I would do as a child. Like literally I've been working towards this. So like even on the show, when I get so like passionate about saying like, this is my dream, and everybody's like, this is all of our dreams, I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like my mother didn't say that I like, no one forced me into this life. No, like I've literally from a child believed that I was a star in some kind of way and made those sacrifices to get that without anybody forcing me to, you know what I mean?
Or even giving you guidance, like, if that's what you want to do, then go here. You're just sort of following this light.
I've just been like chasing my own path. And so like to get on Drag Race and to do these things and be able to travel now and to look back at my 6-year-old self and be like, you were right, you did it. You know, like, you know, like that's like, it's like a lifelong validation that happened when I got the call to be on Drag Race. It was like, you're not crazy. You were gonna make it one day, like that kind of thing. Yeah. And then to have the experience I had on Drag Race is a different blow. But it feels good to know that something that I work towards, and that if I work hard enough, I really can make it happen. Yeah. Because a lot of people who are working towards their goals don't really believe that they can get it. You know what I mean? And sometimes people who aren't working that hard get there, and that can really be a blow to people who are working really hard.
Certainly, you can really screw with their morale.
That's why people get mad at the Kardashians. It's like, well, what are they doing? And it's like, there's work involved, but it doesn't feel like the work that you're doing, and so you feel like what you're doing doesn't matter.
I don't watch it, but it's like, look, these things happen. Like, who knows why they happen? But it also means that there's opportunities that no one ever thought would exist. So maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, maybe just look for your opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. It won't look anything like that, but there's things out there. You never know.
Yeah, I think if I wasn't casted for season 10, I probably definitely wouldn't have auditioned for season 11. But if I had that year, because I was already on a momentum in Chicago as an activist queen and like everything like that, especially with Black Girl Magic, I think I would have been in a place, I might not have been traveling as much or as popular, but I definitely would have been fulfilled in a way.
Sure.
Where because, you know, I've always wanted to be a star in that way. And then in growing up, I became more tied to activism and doing that kind of work. And so I think if I had an extra year to live in that, I would probably still be talking to you in some kind of way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It just would have taken a slightly different route.
Yeah.
And the activism, when did that start roughly? What age?
It's really hard to say. One of my first time that I remember protesting something was in 7th grade. We had a leak in our library that was right at the stairs. So like you walk through the door and you're getting dripped water on.
Yeah.
And it went on for about 3 weeks, and we were like, really? Like,
this is cool with you guys?
No one's, there's not even a bucket. No one's gonna. And so, and then like there was like rumors of it being like asbestos connected and stuff like that. And so we took a day off of school, and there was like a photo of me with caution tape wrapped around my mouth and like a hoodie on, holding up a sign. That's my earliest memory of like being that person.
Yeah.
And it is a bug. You feel like you've made a difference. I remember a WGN helicopter flying over and like getting like the shot of me, and I'm like,
oh wow.
I'm like, here I am in my little personness, but because I'm making enough noise, it's going to reach other people.
Right.
And that's addictive.
Yeah, sure. And I imagine also that early on with that, you started to experience that thing where other people who maybe should be for what you're fighting for have a sort of weird resistance.
Yeah. And that rings for me in Michael Jackson's songs, They Don't Really Care About Us. I remember one of my first protest drag performances, I went to do that song, and I was listening to the lyrics, and I started crying because I had to think of that song was written 80s, early 90s, and everything in it is still necessary today. And I was like, why is this fight still, and just like really wrenched me. And now of course it's not even cool to do Michael Jackson music anymore. So it's like, oh. So yeah, that's really weird. So for me it was like, you can make a difference, and I think even with Drag Race, I forgot that just because you got to the mountaintop doesn't mean you'll be heard. so that was a blow to my reality. But
do you think that might have helped in a way, because you were like, okay, there's still this problem of reaching people?
Yeah, for some reason, I guess I had it in my mind that like once I got on Drag Race, all the problems would be solved.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it's such a massive thing.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, my reach is going to be so big, and like people want to hear the truth, right? Or
right. Right, y'all. We want to hear the truth, right? Unless it's inconvenient for us. Well, yeah. And that was the realization of like, oh, maybe not. All right. And so now I've had like a year to recalibrate and think about thinking about the work that needs to be done from this platform.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, what's your relationship with World of Wonder now? Like, would you go to DragCon? You'd mentioned DragCon New York before, so you've been at one before.
I did two. I did DragCon LA last year and DragCon New York last year. This year, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to devote that time and energy to music and music videos. Yeah. But me and World of Wonder, they haven't called, I'll say. Okay. Before the reunion, there was, they would mention every now and then, you never know when All Stars. We haven't had that talk in a while. Morgan McMichaels in a recent episode just like popped up and did like a something and popped out. That would be fun. Right, I think I probably couldn't do it with Rue in the room. And that's my thing about All Stars is, for the fans and like for drag and for my love of drag, I would love to go on the show again and show an elevated version of myself, but I just don't think that there's a possibility.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you'd be open to it if they presented it to you, maybe.
I think it would be good for me and Rue to have a sit down.
It'd be interesting to see as well. I think that would be actually very helpful to everyone.
Yeah. If we could get that cleared up, then I would be willing to move for it.
I'm sure everyone knows where to reach you. But let's get through all the socials and websites and everything.
Follow me everywhere at The Vixen's World, except my Venmo is The Vixen Bitch.
Very important to have that differentiation,
Yes. And even thevixensworld.com.
Why don't we close with the song we referenced at the beginning?
Yeah.
Room Part 2?
Room Part 2 featuring Shea Coulee.
Fabulous. Well, thanks so much for joining me, The Vixen. I'm so glad it worked out.
Yeah, I'm so glad we got it. I'm the baddest bitch in the room. I'm the baddest bitch in the room. I'm the baddest bitch in the room. I'm I'm the baddest bitch in the room until I go to the next room. I'm the baddest bitch in the room. I said it. The baddest bitch in the room until I go to the next room. I'm the baddest bitch in the room. Forget it. The baddest bitch in the room. The baddest bitch in the room. I'm the baddest bitch in the room. The baddest bitch in the room. Baddest bitch in the baddest bitch in the baddest bitch in the room. Baddest bitch in the baddest bitch in the baddest bitch in the room. I said it. I said to myself and myself said, who? You are the flyest bitch in the room. No other guy put it down like you. They can't do that thing you do. I said to myself and myself said, who? Said to myself and myself said, who? Said to myself and myself said, who? You are the flyest bitch in the room. You are the flyest. You are the flyest. You are the flyest bitch in the room. You are the flyest. You are the flyest. You are the flyest bitch in the room. You are the flyest bitch in the room. You are the flyest bitch in the room. You are the flyest. You are the flyest. You are the flyest. Flyest bitch in the room. Flyest bitch in the flyest bitch in the flyest bitch in the room. I'm the flyest bitch in the room. I'm the flyest bitch in the room.
What? Yes, bitch, I'm the flyest. You can't play, but girl, don't try this. Mighty fine, cause my face and my ass are just so sublime. What they gonna do in the other room when I roll through and collect the edges too? Wait, do I look upset to you? Pulling out on you like vroom, vroom. You want the baddest that's in the room, but when I leave, what will you do? That title, yes, it belongs to me. Come to the next room and you will see. Melanin poppin', all the boys stoppin', they on, they ooin'. I'm sitting here schooling, tins, they all will scream, cause I'm tugging on these hoes like my name's Kareem.
You never walk a mile in my shoes. You stay on the block, I fly and I cruise. You ain't got a rock, stop eyeing my juice. You don't even count, listen to this haiku. Look, I do whatever I choose. It's my rules, I'm just glad I'm not you. I bet you can't stand me now. Good luck with my hand-me-downs. You got caught with your panties down. Fuck a crime, bitch, I'm coming for a Grammy now. Let me get my tens, bitch, don't forget it. Yep, I wrote that shit and you ran the Reddit. Time to give me my checks, bitch, run my credit. Don't blame the edit. If I said it, I said it. I said to myself and myself said, who? You are the flyest bitch in the room. No other guy put it down like you. They can't do that thing you do. I said to myself and myself said, who? Said to myself and myself said, who? Said to myself and myself said, who? You are the flyest bitch in the room.
All with your bullshit.